Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for T&D today, we have in our King Leo D&D mug. Again, from our good friends over at King Leo D&D. Go check that out, because they do good work over there. Inside of it, we have... There's a new tea that I got today. In fact, I got it like 3 hours ago. Elderberry Lemon Balm, Immune and Stress, with ashwagandha for adipogenic support. That's a long word, and I didn't take the time to try and figure out what it was. It's very good, though. It's not quite what I was expecting. It's a little bit more lemony than I thought it was going to be, but still very good. So, anyway, we're not here to talk about the new tea that I got today. We are instead here to talk about some monsters. We're specifically here to talk about building your own monsters, and more specific than that, we are here to talk about building your own boss monsters. I love building boss monsters. I love building monsters really of all kinds. I love homebrewing my stuff, but boss monsters are consistently the best one because you get to use some really cool stuff for it. And I really love getting to like interact with those mechanics that you just can't really interact with for your average encounters with your players as they go through your campaign. So I have 5 things here, but it's really kind of like a rolling list of things that I really love to put into my boss monsters. So we're going to go ahead and just run through them. And this can be a template sort of for making any kind of boss monster, because there's not something here necessarily that I am hitting on that is too out of the ordinary for official published material. The last couple of things, really the last 3 things, are not super common. The last 2 things are a little bit more homebrew specific. First off, right from the top, we're going to start as general as we get, and we're going to get more specific. Layer actions. Just give it a layer. Give it a layer of some sort. Give it layer actions. If they are too low of a level for it to be worth having big like legendary actions or like make it too powerful, give it a layer action. It gives it essentially an extra battlefield control turn in each initiative count, which is a really, really powerful tool for it to be on its side. These don't have to deal damage. They don't have to do a whole lot. They can just adjust the way that things are going. It could be that these giant rock walls spring up in, you know, these different orientations. It can be that a beam fires off of something to cut something off. If you are in like a high magic setting, and it's honestly, if they're fighting a wizard who could potentially cast 7th level spells, I guess, it could be that he has a series of like points set up, like a series of pythons. That's not really what I wanted to say, but I don't really know what else to call them. A series of like little towers that at every initiative count 20, they can change, and it becomes a different like series of wall of forces, kind of like Lieutenant Surge in the Pokemon games and his electric gym fence thing, but like they can spring up and just sort of partition off the battlefield. It's something that allows your villain to have a tiny little bit more control over the battlefield that you are looking at, and that is a big deal when you are going in as sort of a solo fighter with that, especially if your party is really strategic. They work really, really well together. You can pop a layer action early. It can be a initiative count 20, and you can get it out of the way so that they are suddenly kind of on their heels because there's something new that they have to see and deal with. If they are a tactical team, you can go ahead and you can make it every 10 or every 5, so it could be 20 and 10, it can be 20, 15, 10, 5, like it could be stepped down in that way. You could have multiple per round. It doesn't have to be that it happens once every cycle. Layer actions are just really, really good things to have because of the flexibility that gives you without having to burn through resources that necessarily the villain itself has or the boss monster itself has. So make sure you give them layer actions. It makes it a little bit more interesting, pretty much always. That's just the way that it goes. Obviously, the natural progression from a layer is to give it legendary actions, because, again, if your players are really fighting down a boss monster, having that monster be able to go one time every round of combat when the players get, you know, 4, 5, 6 sometimes turns between the monster going and the monster going again, That's really tough. There's a reason that legendary actions exist in 5e as a concept. Legendary actions really help balance out the field. All around, they don't have to be anything too insanely powerful. Just look at something like a Dragon's Wing attack. It can cost 2 actions. It allows them to reposition themselves on the battlefield, in addition to dealing a little bit of damage. It can be something where it just lets you pop off a spell, lets you pop off an attack. It doesn't have to be something that is going to just put your players down, because if you just give yourself that little extra bit of control, like you can cast a cantrip with it. That is actually a super potent ability to be able to have. And now if you are at the point where legendary actions are not enough necessarily to like really knock them in, go ahead and add mythic actions and a regen. Mythic actions, if you don't know, were introduced in Mythic Odysseys of Theros. They are honestly one of the best things to come out of that book. I liked it a lot, but I know that it wasn't super well received all around. And mythic actions are something that, from everything that I have seen, people really, really love, and I really like too. They are extra legendary actions you get after you hit your hit point 0 eventually. Instead of dying outright, you are reset to a certain number of hit points. You gain some special feature, and then you get access to additional legendary actions. It gives it like a 2-phase Final Fantasy kind of fight mechanic to it. It's really, really cool, and it allows you to ramp up the difficulty later in the fight. If your players blow through all of their resources early on and just like knock your boss down to 0, then that means that when mythic action or their mythic phase is activated, suddenly your players are tapped a little bit, and they've got a more dangerous thing coming at them because they didn't conserve resources in any way. So mythic actions, in addition to legendary actions, are a really, really phenomenal tool to go ahead and stack onto your boss monsters. Sliding right on down to a less common one that you don't see a lot. In fact, it's really, really not in most monsters in official published material, but I think that it should be in a lot more of the upper level boss monsters, are auras. Auras are a phenomenal, phenomenal thing to be able to tack onto a boss monster. This essentially is a consistent effect around them. It makes it so that your melee fighters or your spellcasters that you get close to or anything like that really have to like consider the benefits and drawbacks of being close to this thing. It can even just be that like around them is difficult terrain. There's like a smog in the air that makes it hard to breathe, so they move at half speed while they're in there. It doesn't have to be something that is damaging. It doesn't have to be something that like directly affects their action economy. It can just be something that will limit them in some small way or boost the way that the boss monster is interacting with the world around them while those things originate within that aura. And that is really the nice thing about it. Paladins get auras. You can use those as like solid examples of jumping off points. Maybe, honestly, your boss monster has an aura of protection, like a paladin does, for all of its minions that are around it. That is a really, really phenomenal way to be able to utilize the minion mechanic that 5e doesn't really do a great job of, but could be useful for you in that, if that is the kind of vibe that you're going for. As I have said it many times on this show, I will say it again, I will say it forever, always build for flavor. I highly recommend building in a flavorful aura if you have one, because it's a really, really great tool. In a monster that I made, the nastiest monster I have ever made, I made it for a friend of mine, the Evil Queen, Miss Brooklyn 2 today. I've mentioned her before. And she loved it. One of the things that it had was its aura of absolute rot. It was a CR like 38 to 42 creature. It was somewhere way up there. Like, it was crazy, crazy. It was built for like gods to fight or something. But this thing slowed people down. It made it harder. It had additional effects while things were in that aura. Like, somebody tried to heal somebody while it was in the aura, it would instead like siphon off the healing. It would deal some necrotic damage. It would do all of these things. That's obviously a super extreme example for a way, way overpowered monster. But like, the theme of it was that it was slowly decaying everything around it. And so it siphoning healing, it dealing necrotic damage, it making things slow down around it. It all built to theme. And so you can really use an aura to feed the theme that you're going for. And that's important. If you are struggling to figure out what that theme might be, there's some great resources for you on the line, on the books, on the everything that you could want. Reddit is really great. Pinterest is really great. People publish work there all the time. DM's Guild, Drive-Thru RPG. Honestly, third-party books like Kobold Press and Grim Hollow are so good with some of their monsters. Like, pull some inspiration. Really, please do, because they are fantastic, fantastic resources. The next one down is one that I have not seen anyone else use, actually. I have introduced it to several people, and they really like it. But I haven't seen people use it in their 5e games, outright at least. And that is action points. Action points are I'm going to call them a brainchild of mine, but I'm sure that they're not. I'm sure it's been done many times over. I'm sure it's actually been published somewhere even. But I don't know where that is. Action points. It is exactly what it sounds like. You make a monster that has all these really cool actions. They've got attacks. They've got a breath weapon. They've got this moving charge thing. Like, they've got all this cool stuff. But unfortunately, Action Economy usually limits you to, oh, you can do one of these things. You can cast a spell, or you can make 4 different melee attacks while moving. Why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to do 2 melee attacks and cast a spell or something like that? So action points is you assign a number of points to your boss monster to be able to use on every turn that they have. And then you just sort of use them like legendary actions, except you spend them all in a row, and then they recharge on your next turn. This crazy monster that I had built for Brooklyn it had 5 action points. It had things that were 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, and I want to say there was one that was a 4-point cost thing. And it gives you the ability to be more flexible with what you're doing. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that, like, a dragon can't use its breath weapon and also do a claw attack when, alternatively, it could do claw, tail, bite in the same amount of time as it takes it to go blah, scratch. So action points are a really good way to solve that. It gives you more flexibility. It gives you the ability to adapt to what is being thrown at you by your players. If your players are not doing well, you can roll it back and use some of the lower powered things, or go for like a big bomb, and that's everything you can do on that turn, instead of like dishing out damage in a big circuitous fashion. You can use those points to like control the field a little bit more instead of like beating down the players. They are a really good way to be a versatile and flexible combatant, instead of being locked into, this is the action you can do, or this is the action you can do, or this is the action you can do. It feels more right to me. Also, I know I said that I'm sure this is published somewhere. I'm almost positive this is in like Pathfinder or something. I have not read any Pathfinder material. I don't know anything about it. So I might just be reinventing the wheel here, but like it's a good system. I have enjoyed it a lot. And so, quite frankly, if it is, then hey, I did a good job. So anyway, moving on from action points, we go back to building to theme a little bit here. My last thing on this list, the thing that I really try and do sometimes, is to target specifics in players. Now, there's a couple of things with that. It's kind of a two-prong thing here. The first prong is targeting a specific in a player in terms of mechanics. If there is something that a player excels at, it is the thing that they have done, it's the thing they have built it on, and you, for whatever reason, need to make this monster more dangerous for that player specifically. Have it be something that will directly impact that thing that they are good at. Don't take it away from them by any means, because if you take it away from them, then you are just crippling that player for some reason. But make it a little bit harder for it to go off. Like, just give them a little bit more of a challenge in getting through it, because it feels more like a personal struggle then, and that is what you want if you are theming a boss monster to a player that is very, very good at their one thing. So, if you target a specific mechanical thing that a player does, then you are really, really hammering down on them in that way without it becoming this unfair kind of thing. You're not targeting them. It is sort of a passive effect maybe, or it's something that just happens to impact a certain player more than other players. Honestly, a decent example of that is a shadow, or something that you could create that uses the shadow strength drain thing. If, for example, you are fighting barbarian, and for whatever reason, this creature needs to be better against the barbarian in your party, sapping their strength is going to suddenly make the barbarian's life a lot harder. It's not going to make it so they can't do anything. It's just going to make them be a little bit more creative, be a little more cautious, and rely more heavily on their party. Maybe you are running something where the goal is to make them rely on the party a little bit more. There you go. Take away a little bit of what they're really, really good at. Because once that first one lands, they're going to go, oh God, and they're going to have to figure out a different way to do it as opposed to sit there and just beat you down. Because you are going to progressively take away their ability to do that. They will have to back up, they will have to strategize, and they will have to figure out a new solution. The other targeting of a specific in a player is almost the opposite of that. I don't know if I've talked about this on this before. I've talked about it on TikTok, I'm pretty sure. Every once in a while, if I am building a boss monster, if there is a narrative reason that a certain player should be the one to defeat that monster, I'm not going to make it so only they can kill it. It is just that I will give a lot of my a lot of my monsters, sort of like a death threshold kind of thing, sort of like an Undead Fortitude, where they hit 0 hit points, they roll a save, and they have to beat whatever the damage is, or they have a DC that increases by a set amount, whatever it is. If that player, like that character specifically, is the one that is dealing this final blow, they make the saving throw with disadvantage. Or if it's a different character, they make it with the advantage, and it's straight for the other person. You're just trying to like sort of wedge it towards that specific character without it feeling like, oh, the rest of us could just sit here and wait for that person to actually come in and deal the final blow. Because there's still the possibility that anybody could do it. But if narratively, your wizard who, you know, has been, I don't know, your wizard who has been cast out by their teacher, who was, you know, blackballed by the head of their college or whatever, if they are the ones that manage to land that final blow, it feels so much better. However, you don't want to make it so that if the wizard is suddenly panicking and trying to do a bunch of control stuff, the rest of the party is just screwed because they are sitting there getting hammered on while you wait for the wizard to go ahead and just throw a final 1 damage magic missile at them. Like, you don't want that. So you give them this saving throw instead, because it allows you to like, kind of push it towards that, but without actually like forcing the hands of the players to do something that they think is out of their character. So that's my list of like boss monster ideas. It's 5, 6-ish points. These are really, really useful things that I have found when I'm making my own boss monsters. I love making monsters, so I use these a lot. And again, I will pick and choose. I don't use all of them all the time. Like action points are for like the big final bosses. They're not for the random like mini boss in the middle of a campaign. Auras is one that I will throw all over the place, and I will have different effects because they're just more fun that way. I don't make things mythic unless it is one of those like big bosses or the players are a high enough level. I'm not going to make my level 3 players deal with a mythic boss. That's insane. Mythic is built for like level 10 plus. So just like pick and choose the things you want. It doesn't have to be all of it, but it should be some of it, really. At the base level, a layer is always a really good bet, I think. So moving forward from there, where did my streams list go? We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a list at the shows that we have for today. Today we have, in no particular order, Diary of a Dragon Pit, Star Wars First Resistance, Dungeons and Daddies, Bombarded, Hekva D&D, Glass Cannon, and the Queer Questers. Go check them out. Let them know that I sent you, because again, someday somebody's going to say something to me about it. Somebody's going to say something to me about it. There we go. And I'm going to think that it's funny. But until then, I'm going to keep asking you guys to do it. So, that's everything I have for you guys. So thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check out the link in the episode description here. Yep, that's it. So, with all that said, guys, don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.